Welcome back in the kitchen with Katie. Today we're going to be baking up banana maple bread. Also really good for the holidays. I'm just really getting into that holiday kick. I also have a lot of bananas left over, so I was like, what can I do with bananas? So here we go. So I'm going to start out with a banana. Relatively brownish. Usually the best for baking. Really brings out the banana flavor. Also makes it a lot easier to mash up as well. So go ahead and throw that banana in there. You're going to need 1 egg. So I'm going to crack that in there. And as you know, all of my recipes are always sugar-free and gluten-free. This one is going to have, you can use oatmeal, you can use any kind of oats. I'm going to use this ancient grain super seed mix from Trader Joe's. Gluten-free, as you can see. So I'm just going to do a 1/4 cup in there. Go ahead and dump that in. Okay, and then we're going to have a 1/4 cup of almond butter. You can use coconut oil if you want. I'm just going to do a 1/4 cup of almond butter just because, again, I have a lot of that left over. Most of my best recipes end up coming from stuff I just have left over, and I'm like, what can I make with this? What can I make with that? So that's what inspired this today. It's really cold and rainy outside, and I was just in the mood to bake. Also not feeling well enough to do anything more physical, as you can tell by my voice, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, so before we add any other dry ingredients, we're going to add 1/4 cup of milk, maybe a little more, just because, again, I like to make high fiber, high protein desserts, so a lot of the protein that we're going to be adding in will absorb up a lot of that liquid. So I'm going to turn this on. That was all mixed up. I'm going to start putting a little more of the dry ingredients now. So I use egg white protein powder for a lot of my baking, just because the egg whites really do help bind it together since there's no gluten. You can also use whey protein too. I just chose not to because I used milk. So I'm going to put about 1/2 cup in here, 2 1/4 cups, math. That's actually about the whole bag. As you can see, I'm very precise on my measuring. And then we're going to do 3 tablespoons of psyllium husk. Really, again, to help bind it together. There we go. Baking powder for it to rise up and become a little more bread-like, since this is like a quick bread. So I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That you do need to be pretty precise on, because it can really throw off your whole recipe. We're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You can do anywhere from 1/2 tablespoon to a whole tablespoon of cinnamon. I love cinnamon. I think it really helps bring out the maple flavor too. So, more the better. And then I'm also going to throw in a little bit of nutmeg. So normally there's not nutmeg in maple kind of recipes, but I figured it would just give it a nice little kick. Only do about a 1/4 teaspoon because it really can overpower the whole thing. If you put in too much nutmeg, too much allspice, too many cloves, any of that, people won't eat it. And then we're going to go ahead and put in the maple flavor. So I always choose non-alcoholic, just so you don't have a lot of those sugar alcohols in there. So I'm going to do about 1/2 teaspoon. Just because, again, this is overpowering. You can also try using molasses. You can see it's kind of thick like it, but it kind of gives it that caramely flavor. Makes it really nice on a cold, windy day like this. And then I'm going to use liquid stevia. You can use powdered form too, whatever you have at your store. This is just what I had left over in my cupboard. So I'm going to put in a whole teaspoon. I'm going to mix that again. All mixed. So now we're going to put it into our pan. You can use a 5x9 pan. I'm just using a square 8x8 pan. Make sure you line it with parchment paper, or you at least oil the pan pretty generously. I have really bad luck with not lining my pans. Everything just gets stuck. So I always like to say better safe than sorry. Line your pan with something. And if you do decide to oil it, so what I did is I melted down some coconut oil and just lightly greased the pan. It is a lot safer than many of those commercial cooking sprays. And when you're cooking over any kind of high temperature, it's really better to use a saturated fat in doing so. So we're going to scrape all of it out of the bowl. Just spread it out so it's really even along the pan. And then finally, you're going to take a 1/4 cup of walnuts, pretty well smashed. And then you're just going to sprinkle them on top. And then stick them in the oven. And let that bake for about 20-22 minutes. So I just pulled it out of the oven. And it looks beautiful. Lastly, I'm just going to take a little bit of maple syrup. Pure maple syrup. You don't want to get that fake, artificially sweetened maple syrup for pancakes. It's poison. I'm barely going to drizzle a little tiny bit on top. So you're just going to make little, like, zigzag across. And we're done. Has that nice little glaze on it. Let it cool down, pull out of the pan, and cut it up. Thank you for joining me, Baking with Katie.